Hi everyone and welcome to Bonnie Astrology. Today I'm going to be discussing the partial solar eclipse in Aries, which is happening on the 29th of March 2025, and of course what it means for your zodiac sign. As always, if you do enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up to let me know that you like it. Subscribe to the channel for regular astrology content from me, and if you want to follow me on any of my socials or visit my website, it's all listed in the description box below. As always, I'm going to go into the astrology of this eclipse before I get into the horoscopes. If you do want to click ahead to the horoscopes, all of the timestamps are listed below, and I suggest that you watch your rising sign. But I am going to get into what this eclipse means for us collectively and the different themes that may be coming up with this partial solar eclipse in Aries. I do need to address the elephant in the room. I am a little bit in a different setup. I'm very much in a different setup, actually. I'm having some technological troubles as per Mercury retrograde, and I had filmed this video. I had it all on point. It was grand. It was recorded and then it deleted. So I have to redo it, and I'm just going to redo it with what I've got and what I think will be the safest option. So that is the computer and a microphone. So this is just a temporary thing. It's a temporary setup. We'll be back to normal programming hopefully next time. The next video will probably be the Neptune in Aries video. It may be under this format, but it may not be. I did lose also my April horoscopes video too, so Mercury retrograde is really hitting me. How's it going for you? Because for me, it is really stereotypical of a Mercury retrograde. But anyway, gonna get into this solar eclipse in Aries video. So just a few housekeeping facts about this solar eclipse. It's a partial solar eclipse. It's happening on the 29th of March 2025, and it's happening at 8 degrees of Aries. So if you check out your natal chart, and if you don't know how to do that, I suggest you pulling a free one from one of the astrological websites that will come up if you Google free natal chart, and checking your birth chart to see if you have any factors at 6, 7, 8, 9 degrees of Aries. I would actually say for an eclipse, maybe round out 5 degrees either end. So anything from 3 to 12 degrees of Aries will be the most impacted by this eclipse. And by impacted, I mean that there tends to be more obvious themes going on for you, particularly with the angle or the planet that's affected. And this also goes for you if you have any placements at those degrees of Libra, Cancer, or Capricorn, because there's going to be a hard aspect from this eclipse. But we are going to go into in the horoscopes what it means for the house that it's falling in your chart. Just because you don't have any factors at that at those degrees of Aries or the cardinals doesn't mean you won't be affected at all. There will still be a new beginning happening in your chart. And eclipses, it tends to be that we're the main character or a supporting character. Not every eclipse is the same. Not every eclipse is a life-changing event. It can be a life-changing event for those around you, or it can just simply be a new chapter that you're experiencing, particularly with a solar eclipse. Now, when we have a solar eclipse, it coincides with the new moon, which typically coincides with new beginnings and new starts, fresh starts. It's in the sign of Aries, which is all about being pioneering, innovative, initiating something new, having courage, doing something independently. It's quite enterprising. So this may be a time when you feel the courage to initiate something new. You feel the call to initiate something new, to take a risk, to take courage in initiating something. It's a sign of the self. So it's very independent and it's a very selfish energy. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's very self-motivated. And it's a self-starter kind of eclipse. Now, as much as that's very new and that's very fresh, this eclipse is actually the final eclipse in the series of Aries and Libra eclipses that we've had since 2023. And in fact, they began with a solar eclipse in Aries. And both the beginning eclipse, the solar eclipse in Aries, and the final eclipse in the series were both solar eclipses in Aries ruled by Mars in Cancer. So you can bet that there is a similarity between the eclipses that occurred. The first one being in the spring, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, of 2023. I have a feeling it was April 2023. I can't quite remember the exact date, but it was ruled by Mars in Cancer. Now, I said something then that in a predictive sense, I was mentioning that astrology, history, astrological historical events, they do not repeat, but they very often rhyme. And I mentioned with that eclipse back in the spring of 2023 that it was actually a solar eclipse in Aries ruled by Mars in Cancer, that the Titanic sank under. And it was also a Mercury retrograde, so there's a very strong resonance with this eclipse and the one in 2023 that I mentioned. I mentioned it then, and not long after that, we had the submersible disaster, which was linked to the Titanic because they were going down to visit the wreckage, and of course, the submersible imploded. So while I'm not saying that there's going to be something necessarily linked to the Titanic again, I'm mentioning again that history does not repeat, but it often rhymes. And in both cases, with the Aries energy, with the Aries energy of this eclipse, it was a rush, and it was a rush at the expense of safety measures. If you think back to the Titanic, they ignored warnings. They were trying to get there that bit quicker. They had this idea that God himself could not sink the ship. They were tempting fate in that sense. There was a sense of recklessness and overconfidence, I think is what I'm really trying to say. There was a sense of overconfidence in both cases. And I'm mentioning it because I think this eclipse has similar undertones. And particularly because Neptune is going to be changing signs the next day and going into the sign of the eclipse, I feel like there is this essence of potential for shipwrecks or shipping disasters or disasters at sea. Neptune is the planet associated with the ocean. And as I say, the Titanic sank under a solar eclipse in Aries ruled by Mars in Cancer. Mars in Cancer is a water sign, but there is this impulsive, risk-taking energy with Aries that sometimes doesn't pay attention to the red flags, that sometimes doesn't listen to the warnings. And with Mercury retrograde, there could be miscommunication, which makes it that bit more difficult. And I'm not saying this to be doom and gloom. I'm not saying this to be scary. I'm not saying this to any of those things. It's just the advice comes through the same with those eclipses that slow down. It's that you can be impressive and innovative and inspiring and adventurous and brave without being stupid. You know, you don't have to take stupid risks, especially in very dangerous situations. So that's just something I wanted to mention, especially with Neptune. It kind of gives into this energy of submarines in the Navy and things like that. So it can be to do with those types of ships more than anything else, or it can be to do nothing with shipping. It's just a pattern that I've sort of noticed with this solar eclipse in Aries. So I just want to mention it. But as I say, it's ruled by Mars in Cancer. There's also going to be this Mercury-Neptune conjunction happening at 29 degrees of Pisces just before Neptune moves into Aries. And as Mercury is retrograding back into Pisces, pay attention to your dreams around the time of this eclipse because they can be very insightful, very psychic, very... they can give you symbolism, signs, they can be premonitions even with this conjunction happening. Venus is also conjunct Neptune at the time of this eclipse, which gives this sense of potential for unconditional love, which would be lovely because solar eclipses in Aries, they tend to coincide with new events or action taken when it comes to battle, when it comes to war, when it comes to conflict, particularly from leaders, masculine leaders. With the solar eclipse element of this, the sun is to do with leadership. So it can be that a leader is wanting to make some sort of strike, leader is wanting to initiate something. But, you know, with it being ruled by Mars in Cancer, there can be a territorial aspect to this. There can be a sense of sovereignty and patriotism as the justification behind it in their eyes. So it can be a time where there is some sort of strike, there is some sort of initiation. I mentioned this in the March horoscope. There can also be changes in leaders that occur with solar eclipses as well. Neptune does move into Aries the next day, and this is a huge event for all of us, especially collectively. Neptune's very connected to collective consciousness. And when it leaves a sign, there can be this great awakening in that house. I remember the last time that Neptune left Aquarius and moved into Pisces. I remember that coinciding with the change I made in my life because I woke up to something. It can be a time of waking up to particularly events in the Pisces part of your chart where you feel like you were not seeing things correctly. Maybe you were seeing them through rose-tinted glasses. Maybe you were seeing them through a more negative lens. Maybe you were being duped or deceived, or maybe you were doing the deceiving. But where Neptune leaves a house, when it leaves a sign, we get a bit of a wake up. And with Pisces, it is to do with delusions. It is to do with deception. It is to do with perhaps spirituality as well, religion. There can be changes when it comes to spiritual and religious leaders as Neptune moves into Aries. And with Neptune moving into the sign of the solar eclipse, it means that the essence of Neptune is upon us when it comes to these new beginnings. It can be searching for something more idealistic. It can be searching for something more fantasy-based. It can be searching for transcendence. It can be searching for unconditional love. So hopefully, if there was some degree of conflict, if there was some degree of initiation with Neptune coming in, there's a collective change, there's a collective understanding of what battle means to all of us. With Neptune being there, it really changes our consciousness. It really changes the way that we view the world, whether we're viewing it correctly or not. And I will get into this more in the Neptune in Aries video. But a lot of the time, Neptune moving into Aries does coincide with quite important or prominent healers when it comes to surgical advancements, healing the body. That happened a lot in the previous Neptune and Aries cycles that I looked at. Aries is the sign of the body, Neptune's a healing energy. So there can be advancements in terms of that, but there can also be changes in terms of religious or spiritual leaders as well, with Neptune going into Aries too. And obviously it's a long-term transit, but we can notice the effects almost instantly with Neptune. And Neptune will go back into Pisces a little bit later. It's just that the essence of this solar eclipse is sort of linked to hoping for something better, hoping for something a little bit more spiritual, hoping for something a little bit more ideal with this solar eclipse in Aries. It is also opposite that solar eclipse that we had in October in Libra. It was at 10 degrees of Libra. This is sort of rebalancing this me versus you, this sort of I versus we mentality. Your relationships are up for review here in the context of what it is that you want. You know, Venus is in retrograde now, so we're reviewing our relationships, we're reevaluating them, we're reassessing what is and isn't fair. And a lot of us are making changes when it comes to our relationships based on principles of fairness and balance and honesty and integrity. And this is an eclipse that sort of makes us quite independent, quite self-focused, in order to balance out maybe a relationship that's become codependent, or balance out a relationship that is taking too much from us. While this eclipse can represent doors opening, it's also worth noting that Mercury and Venus are both retrograde at the time of this eclipse. Now, don't panic about that, but it can make you feel rather stuck. It can make you feel rather like, what's the point? Why try anything? Why bother? With that retrograde energy, especially in the signs of Aries and then Pisces. It's harder to initiate things. It's harder to embrace the challenge. And sometimes it's because we're being called to surrender and trust that what comes to us is meant to come to us, or what comes back to us is meant to come back to us. Mercury and Venus both went retrograde at degrees of Aries, very close to this eclipse. The early degrees of Aries, very close to this eclipse, meaning that the reevaluation and the reassessment is not in vain. It is leading us to new doors opening and new beginnings. Though they may be somewhat rooted in the past. They may come from people from the past. They may come from old opportunities coming back to you, or something of that nature. You know, the past can also be a great motivator for new beginnings, for doing things differently this time around. So as always, I pull a tarot card for this solar eclipse. I had to pull one off camera because I have, you know, a mic in one hand and I can't shuffle the tarot one-handed. But the tarot card was actually the Ace of Cups, which is about new beginnings and new... Yeah, it's blurry. It's about new beginnings, you know, usually rooted in emotion. This eclipse is ruled by Mars in Cancer. So I think a lot of people are going to be initiating something new because of their emotions, with Mars being in Cancer. The emotion is the motivator. A lot of people may be making new beginnings when it comes to home or family matters, or making new beginnings that are best for their family, best for their home, or perhaps, you know, the end goal is a home. So for example, if you're starting a new job at this time, it may be for you to buy a better home, or to be able to move to a better area, or something of that nature. But for others of you, it can just be motivated by close connections and making changes in order to embrace those nearest and dearest to your heart, or bring them in. With this Ace of Cups often represents a time of new love, and we are in a Venus retrograde cycle, so that's not usually an occurrence, and if it is, it tends to be someone from a past life anyway. But the Ace of Cups more so is about initiating something because of your emotions, because it feels right, because it feels like the right time. And there are times I think with Venus and Mercury retrogrades, there are times when we reevaluate and we're rethinking and we're trying to get to the truth of the matter. We're trying to figure out the pattern or figure out the solution. And sometimes we have to wait until it just clicks. And I think with this eclipse, it could be a moment of clicking for a lot of people where the reevaluation and the reflection, it makes sense and you feel more connected to your emotions. You know, Mercury and Venus both retrograding back into Pisces means that it's about reconnecting to the soul. And we do that by healing and by letting go of what we're storing up, sometimes in our unconscious. And I think it was Carl Jung that said, when we do not make the unconscious conscious, we call it fate. You know, we think that things are happening to us all of the time, but sometimes it's our unconscious mind. And with Venus and Mercury both retrograding back into Pisces and Mercury connecting with Neptune, there may be some realizations emotionally that help you initiate something new physically with this eclipse. So your emotions may be the clue as to what you have to do. So that's what I have for this solar eclipse in Aries. Thank you for your patience with my new background and my, what is it called? See, words are escaping me with Mercury retrograde, my temporary setup. The timestamps are listed below. I hope you all have a great eclipse and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hi Aries, welcome to the partial solar eclipse in Aries horoscope for your sign. It is of course in your sign, your first house, and the North Node was transiting your sign since July 2023, but we had the first eclipse in your sign in the spring of 2023. So you've really been going through a couple of years now of reinvention, of figuring out who you are, how you want to live, how you want to show up to the world, what you want to look like, how you want to style yourself. The North Node going through the sector often coincides with physical changes. So think back over the last couple of years of how you've changed physically. Maybe you have changed your body in some way, your style in some way, your aesthetic in some way. I know one Aries rising, for example, who had a child for the first time, actually became pregnant under the first solar eclipse in Aries. So these types of eclipses and events can bring significant physical changes. And this is the grand finale of this series of eclipses in your sign. So this is kind of a moment where you're thinking, okay, with all the information that I've gathered about myself, all the knowledge that I've got, all the growth that I've done, because you tend to do a lot of growth personally when the North Node goes through your first house. What is the new? Where are you going now? What's the reinvention going to be now? How are you going to change yourself? It's very likely that a lot of you could be having some sort of work done to your body. It doesn't have to be cosmetic. Some of you could be getting something done, a procedure for health reasons or something of that nature. If you are going down the cosmetic route, I would wait until early May to make any kind of significant change, because Venus will be direct and in your sign at that point. So I wouldn't really be pushing on anything at this time. But if you're gathering information and you're getting an idea of what you want to do, fair enough. But you know, if you're looking to get a tattoo or radically change your hair, I would just be mindful of that. Venus retrograde is still happening, so you might not necessarily like the results. But with Mars being in your fourth house, as it was, interestingly enough, in that eclipse back in 2023, in spring 2023, Mars was there too. So think back to that one, what was changing for you. Mars here in your fourth house is saying that you're quite motivated by home matters, family matters, or property matters. So your identity could center around maybe becoming a parent, or maybe who you are in your family, or maybe it's surrounding buying your first home or a property or renovating a property, and you're really focusing your energy Aries on that area of life. And it's interesting too, because Neptune is about to move into your sign and you've never experienced this before, and this will really change your identity and how you see yourself. And Neptune's very spiritual, so you may become more spiritual. You might find that you're more sensitive, you're more tapped into energy, you might find that you're more creative, and you might be ready to let go of old identities, and you might be ready to let go of certain cycles you've been going through with Neptune going through the 12th. You might want to break free of some kind of addiction or toxic behavior or something like that, and really embrace a more spiritual connection to the world, Aries. I will say, as someone who's had Neptune going through the first house since 2011, I do think that it can be a really beautiful energy to work with. It can really help you transcend certain ways of seeing yourself. Your style can change quite a lot, but it can really make you feel more sensitive and more connected to the universe, if that makes sense. So I would say that this is a pretty big eclipse for you, Aries, with it being in your sign and Neptune entering your sign. Planets in the first house by a transit or even natally are quite loud, so you'll really be embracing this spiritual dreamy energy, and you might feel more psychic, you might feel more tapped into the universe, and a lot of you could become healers actually with Neptune going through your sign for the next 14 years. So I would just bear that in mind. The new beginnings that you're embracing at this time, Aries, may have some sort of Neptunian dreamy ethereal essence to them, no matter what it is that you're doing. Or it can be something that's very healing for you. Now, the Ten of Pentacles was your tarot card. This emphasizes that focus on home, family, property matters. This is quite a go-ahead. So maybe some of you are looking to buy a home, close in a home, rent a home, start a family, be more present with your family. Something like that, Aries. It feels as though you're very focused on your home and family. And this will be an area that is blessed for you from June, because Jupiter, the great benefic, will actually enter this sector, really helping you expand your home, family, property matters, that type of thing. It's a very beautiful transit with Jupiter exalted in Cancer for you. It's going to really help you expand your home, your family. It's more of a source of joy and improvement after a rather rough Mars retrograde cycle. That's what I have for you, Aries, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Taurus, welcome to the solar eclipse in Aries horoscope for your sign. So Taurus, this eclipse is happening in your 12th house. This is the house of the hidden. It's very secretive, it's very behind the scenes, and it's very sensitive and very emotional. Now I dare say, with Venus and Mercury having been retrograde in this sector for you, I feel it could have been a little bit like an emotional roller coaster at times. 12th house transits can really pull you in deep to heal, and sometimes they can be a bit isolating. I've noticed with transits to the 12th house that it can be a voluntary isolation. That's where you just choose to spend more time alone, to be a bit of a hermit. And then there's sometimes involuntary isolation where maybe you feel sick, or something happens that you have to stay at home, like your car doesn't work or something like that. And the universe can sort of put you in this timeout that maybe you don't want to be in. This is the house of healing though, and with your ruler having been going through this sector, at the time of this eclipse your ruler will be in the 11th, which is a bit more of a social energy for you. I feel like a lot of you have been reflecting on your relationship to yourself and doing a bit of healing work, maybe some shadow work, maybe having very vivid or wild dreams or sleep disruptions, really bringing your attention inward. And this solar eclipse is sort of setting a new way of looking at your relationship to alone time, or you're changing your relationship to healing. This is a 6-month cycle. So I think a lot of you might be putting in a new practice for yourself, where you're maybe bringing more healing into your routine. You're having a bedtime routine. You're getting more in touch with your emotions. Some of you might be signing up to see a therapist or do some healing work with some sort of practitioner that resonates with you. So that can be traditional counseling, or that could be even shamanism or something like that. I think you could really be looking into different ways of healing, or different ways of taking care of your mental health specifically. Now, it's ruled by Mars in Cancer, which is your 3rd house. So this is very much to do with the mind. And I think a lot of you are really wanting to get a grip on your mindset and see what is your unconscious mind and how is it affecting your mental state. So a lot of you could also be doing something behind the scenes, working on something behind the scenes. And with Mars being in the 3rd house, maybe it's to do with the written word. Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's a blog, maybe it's a book, maybe it's an essay. Maybe some of you are working on something behind the scenes when it comes to, just a mental project of yours, something that takes a lot of your intellect and your mental energy. And that is something that's of great focus for you. Some of you could also be healing a connection to a sibling or a connection to a neighbor, or it could be that you're healing your connection to communication more generally, and how you speak and how you ask for help or don't ask for help, and how you talk about what's going on with you, or how you don't talk about what's going on for you. Some of you could be, if you're looking for some sort of help with your emotional well-being or your mental well-being, it could be through someone local, with Mars being in the 3rd house. Mars does rule your sector of the others, so you might be hiring someone to help you with an issue that you've been facing, Taurus. But a lot of you could just be simply feeling that little bit more introverted and that little bit more, wanting to spend time alone, wanting to heal, wanting to take care of yourself. When we have a new beginning in the 12th house, it tends to be a time where the focus is inward and healing anything that perhaps has been in there for that little bit too long and is affecting your outer reality. So I mentioned it in the intro, but there is a quote by Carl Jung. I want to see if I can get it up because I paraphrased it and didn't do it justice, and I want to make sure that I do it justice for you. So the quote is, let me see. I know I lost it. Oh. Unconscious. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So that's the quote I was looking for, and the 12th house is all about that. It's about making the unconscious conscious, and for you it's about changing the narrative with Mars being in the 3rd house. So a lot of you are rewriting your story, rewriting your narrative, and some of you may actually be using journaling as a way to process your dreams or your experiences at this time, Taurus. Your tarot card is the Knight of Pentacles, and this for you is about taking a slow but steady approach to whatever it is that you're doing. Accepting that it can't all be done in a day, that it's a lifelong practice. When we have eclipses in the 12th or the 6th, they do bring our routines and our efforts over longer periods into focus. So for you, Taurus, this is about incorporating meditation into your routine, breath work, journaling, that kind of thing, and not rushing the process. Solar eclipses, 6-month cycles, you're looking at new ways of healing, you're looking at new ways of taking care of yourself, and you're looking at new ways of going inward. Okay, and that is what I have for you, Taurus, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Gemini, welcome to the solar eclipse in Aries for your sign. So Gemini, this solar eclipse is going to be happening in your 11th house, and that means for you that there is a bit of a reset, opportunities for new beginnings when it comes to your friendships, when it comes to your social circle and your community. If you think back to the spring of 2023, if you're in the northern hemisphere, obviously that's the autumn if you're in the southern. But if you think back to then, Gemini, what was going on for you with your friendships, your groups, your teams, your communities, your social networking? This may be a time where if you haven't, got the changes there that you wanted, or you feel like you've not been social enough, now is the time to join that club, to become a part of that network, to become a part of that team or that society. There can also be fated changes in the teams that you're in now, so whether that is someone comes in or someone leaves, there could be a chance to step into a leadership position with a team that you're a part of. Gemini, there could be a lot of shifting going on around you when it comes to your groups and your teams and your networks. Sometimes I found that eclipses in the 12th can coincide with changes in friendship too. So maybe some of you are making new friends, or with the Venus retrograde, you've decided to move away from a certain friendship or a certain group. That could be something that's happened. But I think because Mercury at the time of this eclipse is in your 11th, you're very focused on being social, of networking, of connecting with others. Mercury will retrograde shortly after back into your 10th house, and there is a sense of professional reevaluation. But I think for a lot of you with this eclipse, you're really realizing how important it is to network, to have friends, to be part of a team. And if you're, hoping for more of that, this eclipse could bring you in an opportunity, a door could open to be part of a club or a society or something of that nature. And it's interesting with Neptune moving into the sector too, you could find yourself moving in crowds that are quite spiritual or quite healing. So that can be simply, attending workshops where you there's a spiritual component, you know, meditation groups, sound baths, yoga retreats, that kind of thing could be more up your alley, Gemini, when it comes to the people you're socializing with. Or you could find that there are very spiritual or mystical or magical people entering your social circle over the next 14 years, but this solar eclipse could certainly be ushering them in. With this eclipse being ruled by Mars in your second house, when it comes to friendships, you're probably quite motivated by your morals and your values. You know, being on the same page with your friends when it comes to your values, it's going to be quite important to you. And you could find yourself joining networks or societies because you feel that they're on the same page as you. It could also be you're joining clubs or societies that do require a fee to be paid with Mars in the second house, or you're wanting to connect with groups of people that can maybe help you make more money. You know, maybe you're going to some sort of class that can help you get your finances in order or something of that nature. But it can also be that you've more confidence with Mars in the second to join groups, or you have the funds to buy this membership or become part of this club or something like that, Gemini. Your tarot card was the Emperor, which is Mars energy. And it's funny because in this particular card, the Emperor is holding a chess piece and he's on a chessboard. So some of you could be joining a chess club, or some of you could be joining a club that really helps you use your intellect and your mind skills. Some of you could be becoming a boss or an authority figure in a team. You know, maybe there's a change in leadership in your team and maybe you're taking the leadership position. It is possible because we do have Mercury and Venus retrograding back into your 10th house, which could bring back an old opportunity, Gemini, to move up a position or move up in the ranks. And maybe over the next 10 months, you're going to be with the North Node in your 10th very focused on climbing the ranks or finding a position of authority in any way that resonates with you. So maybe become your own boss or something like that. Gemini is very, you know, your motivation is coming in here, but you're kind of aware that you have to network in order to make it happen. That's what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Cancer, welcome to the solar eclipse in Aries horoscope for your sign. So Cancer, this eclipse is happening in your 10th house. This is your professional house. This is your career, your public image, your public life. And this eclipse could bring in perhaps a new opportunity work-wise. You've been undergoing a lot of significant changes here since the spring, if you're in the northern hemisphere, autumn in the southern, the spring of 2023. So pay attention to what's been changing for you career-wise, Cancer, since then. This could bring a new opportunity professionally for you, or you may be deciding to make some changes professionally as well. Solar eclipses can put you more in the spotlight when they're in the 10th house, so you might be finding yourself front and center in the spotlight, center stage. It can certainly bring opportunities, but it can also bring you some degree of clarity about what to do next. And this is particularly potent for you, Cancer, because we've had Venus and Mercury retrograde in your 10th house, and you've really been reevaluating your working relationships. You've been reevaluating your public image more generally, how you socialize work-wise, how you charm work-wise, what you're saying, how you're communicating. I will say, and you know, hopefully this isn't the case for you, but I have noticed quite a few Cancer risings in the media, celebrities who have had really big flops with their career while Venus has been retrograde in the 10th house, and it's been quite unfortunate for them, but it has been a reevaluation of, okay, is this right for me? Is this the way that I want to show up? How am I showing up? It can sometimes be a period of feeling misunderstood professionally with Mercury and Venus there retrograde in your 10th house. But it's certainly shifting your professional direction. And if it's not happening now, it will be over the next 6 months, Cancer. So I think for a lot of you, you're really evaluating the work that you do, reevaluating the professional relationships you have, how you're showing up to work, how you're showing up to the world. And I think just reevaluating your career path. And I think a lot of you might be ready for something new, truthfully, that is more in tune with who you are, because Mars is in your sign and Mars is ruling this eclipse. So you might be going through your own personal rebrand. With this eclipse being in the 10th house, you might be feeling like a big change is on the horizon. You might be doing what is best for you. career-wise. That should be your motivating factor, what works for you, who you are, what your natural skills and talents are, and what your personality is, what you're bringing to your career through your personality. What are you more suited to, or who do you really believe that you are, and what career do you think would suit you? Because that can change through life. We change, we evolve, and then what we want to do can evolve as well. And you might be finding with this eclipse that you're really thinking, what would be best for me? Who am I? What is my brand? What are my skills? What are my talents? What is it that I want to do? And a lot of you could really be going in very new directions that surprise people, Cancer, because you maybe, you were going down one career path and now you're ready for something completely different, but it feels very true to who you are. And just remember that Jupiter is going to be entering your sign in June, and you're going to be feeling more optimistic, more hopeful. You're going to feel more popular. You're going to enjoy being seen. You're going to enjoy the things that you're doing and how you're feeling about yourself, and it can be a real confidence boost. With this particular eclipse, Neptune is moving into your 10th house the day after. So when it comes to your career trajectory, I wouldn't be surprised if some of you were sort of moving down a route where you feel like you have a bigger purpose. You feel like you can give something back to people, you can help people, you can maybe help dissolve illusions or dissolve barriers or dissolve boundaries to what people are trying to connect to. It might be confusing at times. You might be really feeling like you're feeling your way through the darkness and following your intuition, but it will be what guides you towards what you want to do for the next 14 years, Cancer. Your tarot card was the Death card, and in this particular deck, it is the Death and Rebirth. So I feel for a lot of you, if you're going through an ending, you have some kind of idea of what it is that you want to do, how you want to be rebirthed career-wise, how you want to rebrand yourself, how you want to rethink your life, your public image. And I think some of you are looking for a total change. Some of you may actually be hiring people who can help you rebrand or help you change your image in some way, or getting advice from someone who's in a position of authority that is maybe a mentor or someone who inspires you work-wise, Cancer. That's what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Leo, welcome to the solar eclipse in Aries horoscope for your sign. So Leo, this eclipse is going to be happening in your 9th house, and this is closing out a series of eclipses that began back in April 2023. So think back to then. Were there any changes going on for you when it comes to your beliefs, when it comes to your personal philosophy, when it comes to what you're learning, what you're studying, or even travel, your travel plans, where you go for your holidays, where you go for vacation, where you want to explore? Some of you could have done a lot of exploring over the last couple of years, a lot of traveling. You could have spent a lot of time in the plane. You could have spent a lot of time in foreign countries, or you could have spent a lot of time learning. Maybe some of you were doing a degree or a course of higher education, or some of you were just really exploring your belief systems, different religions, different spiritual paths. And this eclipse is that grand finale, essentially, of, okay, well, what do we want to reinvent in this sector? Do we want to travel somewhere new? Do we want to study something new? Do we want to explore a different way of viewing the world? Do you want to explore a different religious concept or spiritual viewpoint? So for some of you, you could be traveling somewhere at this time. And it's interesting because solar eclipses are very new, fresh energy, but we do have that Venus and Mercury in retrograde energy. And they've both been retrograding through your 9th house. So maybe you've been going back to somewhere you used to travel to. Maybe you've been picking up something you used to study. Maybe you've been reevaluating your education or what it is that you're studying now. Or you've been rethinking your university or college experience. And all this reevaluation can perhaps set in motion a new beginning for you. I really do feel for a lot of you, you might be going into a new course of study, studying something new, exploring a new religion, exploring a new viewpoint, or traveling somewhere new. But the new energy is, yes, it's there, but it's a new energy can come from something you have picked up before or something you've done before. This can be a bit of a reset, or the redo can just be the reevaluation of the concept. So I do think for a lot of you, you could be traveling somewhere. It's about to get very interesting in this sector though, because Neptune is about to enter your 9th house within a day from this eclipse. So it's kind of coloring the essence of what the next 6 months are going to be for you. And it is also coloring what the next 14 years are going to be for you. So Neptune going through the ninth house, you could be traveling countries for religious reasons, traveling to different countries for spiritual reasons, spiritual exploration. Some of you could be going on sabbaticals, gap years to travel the world. Some of you could be exploring new belief systems. You could be meeting new mentors, teachers. It really feels like a lot of Leo risings that are younger might pick philosophy as their degree or something like that, or religious studies, or, really taking a very spiritual path. And it's important to stay grounded with this, yes, but I feel like a lot of you are sort of looking to go on some sort of journey, even if it's just spiritual. It could be literal, it could be a sabbatical or something like that, but a lot of you are really drawn to explore and broaden your horizons when it comes to your spiritual connection. It's interesting too that this eclipse is ruled by Mars in your 12th house, so it gives that it really deepens that spiritual connection. You're looking for something, Leo, and maybe you don't quite know what it is yet, but you have this feeling you want to explore and examine the mysteries of life. You're wanting to see what's out there. You're more curious, or maybe just your religious and your spiritual belief systems are changing a little bit. With Mars being in the 12th house, you might be looking for a mentor or a teacher or someone to help you heal, to help you let go of past baggage. Mars going through the 12th, it can stir up uncomfortable feelings, especially anger from the past. It can sometimes be, with it being in the sign of Cancer, to do with your family, to do with your home, your upbringing experience. A lot of frustrations can rise to the surface there, and they're coming up to be processed. And it may be that these uncomfortable feelings that you've been experiencing, or this healing that you've been doing, is leading you in new spiritual directions or down new routes, or to help you explore as well, to have a new adventure. Interestingly for you, Leo, your tarot card was the Three of Pentacles. So I do think a lot of you could be working with other people at this time, but I feel like you're getting very curious about many different things, and you're wanting to explore many different topics. You're wanting to put yourself out there. You're wanting to become a mentor. Maybe for some of you, you're wanting to explore. You feel like you're broadening your horizons, and that will look very different to each of you. But I think for a lot of you with this Three of Pentacles, you could be working with other people to get there, or really putting your heart and soul into something that you want to work on at this time, Leo. You're ruled by the sun, so anytime we have this solar eclipse energy, you're wanting to reset yourself. And when it's in the ninth house, you could be feeling very curious about the world and really wanting to broaden your horizons. And I think you might get that through other people as well, Leo. That is what I have for you. I hope you have a good eclipse, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi Virgo, welcome to the solar eclipse in Aries horoscope for your sign. So Virgo, this solar eclipse is happening in your 8th house, and this is the final eclipse there for quite some time. It is the final in the series of Aries and Libra eclipses, which began back in April 2023. So think back to April 2023, what was going on around that time, what new beginnings were happening for you in your close relationships. So with Aries energy for you, this will have sparked a lot of new beginnings when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to how you benefit from another person, shared resources. So this is where you merge with someone else financially. This is where you merge with someone else intimately. And I think for a lot of you, you could have been going in the direction of sharing more. So this could be that you went into a business partnership with someone, you had a loan or a grant together, you took out a mortgage together, you took out a business loan together. Whatever the case may be, you were more focused in the direction of sharing, Virgo, rather than making all the money yourself or paying for everything yourself. This can be where you benefit from someone or something else financially, and that can be not a partner. It can be the government, it can be the bank, getting a loan or a mortgage yourself, but really merging and getting that little bit more closer to someone or something else, joining forces, pooling resources, that kind of thing. So It feels as though this eclipse could be triggering a reset with that, something new. Now, we've had Mercury and Venus both retrograde in that sector for you, so I think for a lot of you, you've really been reflecting and reevaluating your financial relationships, your joint financial relationships. Say you have a mortgage with someone, reevaluating who's paying what and how that's going, or who's doing this or who's doing that, or where you have a debt and you're in a relationship with someone, you maybe both have a shared debt, who's paying what off and that kind of thing, and just reevaluating the balance within it, Virgo. It may also be that you've been reevaluating the relationships that you're in more generally, Venus retrograde through the 8th and the 7th, how fair or equal or balanced your relationships are, how they're going, what needs to change, or just reflecting on your own changing values and needs within your connections and your relationships. Mercury being your ruler going through this sector means you've really been thinking about other people and who you are to them and what they are to you. And it's really looking through this lens of what is and isn't working and what needs to change. And this solar eclipse is a big turning point in that. So some of you could be getting a mortgage or a loan or a grant at this time. Some of you could be making a plan to pay off debt. Some of you could be making a financial plan for yourself when it comes to, your financial affairs, basically. But it can also be that some of you are merging that a little bit more closely with someone. There could be someone particularly for you, Virgo, in your friendship sector that you get that little bit more close to. You connect that little bit more deeply with someone. And it's interesting too with this eclipse because we do have this Neptune entering Aries energy that none of us have experienced before. As astrologers, we research it and we sort of feel it retrospectively to see what it will be. For you, it's going into your 8th house, and Neptune is this, it's a boundaryless planet. So Neptune having gone through your 7th house, maybe you met your soulmate, maybe you met the kind of connections where there were no boundaries, which can be, it can have its moments and it can have its challenges. So with Neptune going into your 8th house, the 8th house of intimacy, you could find yourself really forging much deeper connections with other people, healing connections with other people. I will discuss it more in the horoscope for Neptune in Aries, but it can be this sort of boundaryless energy where you can really join with someone else on something and not quite know where the line is or not quite know where the duties are. So I would say with this eclipse, you may find that there's a lot of changes to the way that you connect with someone else. And there may be a lot of changes when it comes to your financial relationships with someone else. Some of you may get very lucky with Neptune going through the 8th because Neptune's a planet of forgiveness and the 8th house is debt. So some of you may have debt forgiven under this 14-year period, Virgo. But with Mars being the ruler of this eclipse in your 11th house, a lot of you are wanting to reset your finances for a better future, for less concern or worry over the future as well. Your tarot card, Virgo, is the Justice card, which is to do with legalities, of course. Maybe there's some legal contracts coming up. Be wary of signing anything legal or documented before mid-April, because Mercury will be going direct around that time. And I'll talk about it more in the April horoscopes, but I wouldn't be signing anything until mid-April. But this can be about reassessing your relationships through the lens of fairness and equality, Virgo. But that is what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Libra, welcome to the Solar Eclipse in Aries horoscope for your sign. Libra, this is putting your partnerships into the spotlight, and this series of eclipses in Aries and Libra began back in April 2023. So think back then, what was going on with your relationship life, with your partnerships. That eclipse is quite similar to this one. You might have found that there were new relationships that have entered your life over the last couple of years. Your significant relationships have maybe evolved. Some of you might have got engaged. Some of you might have gotten married. Some of you might even have gotten divorced. Some of you might have started a family together, started a business together. That can certainly be the case for some of you with this eclipse because it is ruled by Mars in your professional 10th house, your public life. You could be going public with a relationship. You could be starting a business with your partner, with your spouse. Some of you could be starting a new relationship with someone in the workplace. Maybe you meet your significant other at work. Maybe some of you start dating the boss. I don't know. It feels as though you could be beginning a new relationship with someone at work or a new professional relationship
generally Libra. Now, I will say when it comes to your relationship life, this has been hammered a little bit lately, or even over the last couple of years with the eclipses, but we have had Venus and Mercury retrograde in your sector of relationships and partnerships. So I think for some of you, there could have been some difficulties in a relationship, miscommunication, there could have been tension, reflecting on the relationship generally, reflecting on where it's going, how it's doing, and it can be quite tough in times with a Venus retrograde. Some of you may have heard from exes, some of you might have heard from past partners. Some of you with this eclipse, you could be giving a past partner a second chance. That's only for some of you, of course. Or you could be reconnecting with someone from the past who was not a relationship of significance, but they are now with the retrograde energy and the solar eclipse energy, because obviously they're contradictory. You know, solar eclipses are about new beginnings and retrogrades are about the past. So you could be bringing the past into a new beginning in some way, shape, or form, Libra. But this is a reset for your relationships. Some of you might form new ones, some of you might transform relationships, and some of you might end them with a solar eclipse in the 7th house. What's interesting about this one that we've never experienced before in our lifetimes at least, Neptune is entering your relationship sector. So it's going to be affecting your partnerships, your marriage, your business partnerships. And Neptune is a very hard energy to pin down. If you're getting into a new relationship, it could be someone who's quite Neptunian, so maybe they're quite spiritual, magical, ethereal, mystical. In the positive sense, they could be deluded and deceptive in the negative sense, but you know, take it as it resonates. It can be experienced in many different ways. It's a long-term transit, 14 years, but you could be finding yourself, you know, more drawn to Pisces people, for example, or spiritual people, or mystical people, or people that need your help. Is one way this can transform as well, Libra. Neptune's a very hard energy to define, and it will be covered in the Neptune and Aries video, but it can definitely bring about a beautiful, dreamy soulmate quality to your relationships. And it is the energy of forgiveness as well. So some of you might be wanting to forgive someone, and some of you could meet a big time soulmate as well with Neptune going into your 7th house, and it may be confusing at times, spiritual, idealistic at times, and it's a hard energy to describe for this video alone, but I'm just giving you the tone of if a new relationship is entering your life, there's a Neptunian quality, or your relationships are being reset with that energy too. So forgiveness, compassion, healing, or completely dissolving and letting go, even ghosting for some of you. But this could be a complete reset in your relationship life, Libra. And interestingly enough, your tarot card was the King of Cups. So a water sign, a Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces person could be entering the picture for some of you. If you're looking for a new relationship, this could be the person. They're Neptunian, dreamy, sensitive, psychic, compassionate, kind, watery, quite emotional. That can be someone entering your life, or they could be a water sign, as I say. Or for some of you in your relationships, you're maybe hoping to take on a more spiritual approach, a more compassionate approach. Maybe some of you are focusing on meditating and visualizing and things like that to help your relationship life along, Libra. That's what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Scorpio, welcome to the solar eclipse in Aries horoscope for your sign. Scorpio, this eclipse is happening in your 6th house of health. So this is really putting your health and wellness into the spotlight for you. And if you think back since April 2023, when the series of eclipses began, how have you significantly changed your health, your well-being, your routines, your work over the last 2 years? This eclipse is bringing more transformation, but you have more information at this point. What needs to change about how you work out, how you eat, how you exercise, how you look after yourself, what you do on a day-to-day basis, what you do for work, what your routines are. These things have likely all changed significantly for you since the spring of 2023. Some of you might be looking for a new job with this eclipse. It is happening in your 6th house, and it is ruled by Mars in your 9th house. Some of you might be relocating for work. Some of you might be looking for a job with more vacation, or a job that helps you travel, or a job that helps you study, a job that helps you maybe get a degree or a diploma, you know, work as you learn kind of thing. A lot of you could be looking for a job that resonates more with your own belief system, your own personal ethos and beliefs, maybe your religious beliefs as well. But there could be a certain shift going on for you here, and it feels like a lot of you are really motivated, I think, by something greater than you were before, and I want to explain why. Neptune is moving into the sector for the first time in your lifetime. You've never had Neptune transit the 6th. Of that you can be sure, unless you're, doing something the rest of us aren't, and you're very, very old. But Neptune going into this sector is something entirely new for you, and it's 14 years in terms of its transit time. So this is a long transit, but because it's happening with this solar eclipse, it feels as though it is clouding your new perspectives when it comes to your work, not your career, your work, your job, your routines, your health, and your well-being. I feel like a lot of you may be leading more with your intuition when it comes to your work or when it comes to your health. Things like intuitive eating may be more appealing to you. Having more of a spiritual routine, meditating daily, journaling daily, something like that, praying daily. You could find that for work, you want to do something healing. You might want to become a nurse. You might want to become a doctor. You might want to become a Reiki healer. You might learn Reiki. There may be a sense of wanting to have spiritual rituals in your day-to-day routines and your day-to-day practice. So if you're starting a new job or you're changing your routines, you're changing your health, Scorpio, it feels like there's a spiritual component to it where you feel like you need a little bit more of a connection to the divine. You feel as though you want to go with the flow. You feel you want to drift a little bit. You don't want everything to be so regimented. You might be a little bit confused about your job here and there. Some of you might have to take some time off here and there to heal, to float a little bit with Neptune going through the 6th. It's not the easiest energy to organize, I have to say. So if you're very, type A and you like things organized, Neptune going through your routine sector could have you in a little bit more of a flow state. And again, sort of going through your intuition when it comes to what you're doing. With this solar eclipse being ruled by Mars in the 9th, I think a lot of you feel like you're just in this very spiritual place where you're sort of wondering, what does it all mean? What do I believe? How can I incorporate my beliefs into my routine? How can I incorporate them into my work? When it comes to your job, some of you might be looking for something more altruistic, something more meaningful, something that has a purpose as well. You might be more interested in helping others, is one way that this could manifest as well. Scorpio, with Neptune being in the sector now. And I quite like this eclipse for you if you're looking to start something new when it comes to your wellness and healing. Some of you might be traveling abroad for some sort of medical treatment. Some of you might be traveling abroad to maybe something as simple as get more vitamin D. Maybe you're just looking to improve your mood, improve your well-being, and you think traveling or taking a vacation is going to be the way to do that. And you might just be right, Scorpio. Your tarot card is the Chariot, which is about victory and success, but it can be about taking a road trip. It can be about getting a new car. There can be something coming up with your car, your vehicle around this time. But I think a lot of you are really focused on moving in new directions. You have new goals, you have new things you want to achieve, you have new things that you want to do. And I think a lot of you are feeling like you're getting the incentive to move forward. What I will say about this, we have Venus and Mercury both in retrograde at this time. So there can be a few false starts or there can be a few failed plans before you get the full momentum going. Mercury retrograde in your 6th house is tricky when it comes to your work. There can be miscommunication, cancellations. When it comes to working out, going to the gym, if you're a personal trainer, stuff like that, you can find there's miscommunication. Class times can be wrong. There can be miscommunication at your job, reply all when you really wish you didn't reply all, that kind of thing. But it is leading you in new directions. The reevaluation and the reflection of your work, the reevaluation and reflection of your health, it's all leading you towards something new, Scorpio, and something that you feel has a bigger purpose or a higher meaning. That's what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your solar eclipse in Aries horoscope. Sagittarius, this is the final Aries eclipse in the series of Aries and Libra eclipses that began in the spring of 2023. So these eclipses have been bringing changes to your love life, to your creative pursuits, to maybe your children's lives. For some of you, it could have brought about a pregnancy. For some of you, it could have brought about a great love affair. For some of you, it could have brought about a great artistic project. These were all new beginnings in your life, Sagittarius, over the last few years. There could have been big developments in the life of your children as well. And a lot of you could have been more focused on fun, romance, arts, expression, and that kind of thing. There can be something new happening in this sector with this eclipse. Maybe some of you are finding yourself pregnant. This is entirely possible for a lot of you because this solar eclipse is happening in your 5th house of pregnancy and birth, and it is ruled by Mars in your 8th house. And the 8th house is about transformation. Both these houses are associated with pregnancy. So some of you could have a significant transformation for that reason. It could also be there's a significant transformation happening in the life of a child. They could be making significant changes. When I say the life of a child, this can be your adult children. So this could be that you have a 40-year-old son going through a divorce or something like that, just to give a really obscure example. But it's simply that there could be big changes happening in the life of your children. And with it being ruled by Mars in the sign, in the house for you of transformation, it feels like it could be something substantial. It could be something big. It could be to do with joint financial affairs as well. So maybe there's, maybe there's something that you're creating that you need to get a loan for or a grant for. It could be that you're getting a bursary or something for if you work in the arts, something that's helping fund your artistic expression, or you could be getting payments for a child or sorting out you and your partner could be sorting out childcare for one of your children or something like that. For some of you, this could be a brand new love affair. This could be a new romance coming into your life, a new intimate connection coming into your life. I will say it's funny when we have a solar eclipse when so many planets are retrograding, and by so many I mean Venus and Mercury, but they've been retrograding in this house for you. So some of you might have reunited with a past love, ran into an ex, ran into someone you used to date. Someone could have liked your photo from the past. It's not always a big thing. Some of you could reunite with someone from the past who was a past romantic interest if you're single with this retrograde energy, but it could be Sagittarius that you're giving them a second chance, or it could be that you're deciding to let them go entirely. But it feels like with this eclipse is a peak moment when it comes to one of these areas. What's so interesting about it though is that Neptune is entering the sector for the first time in 160 years. So we've never experienced this unless you're really old and not telling anybody, because we've no one on record at that age, I don't think. But it's a really interesting energy to embrace because it's new for all of us. For you, it's in your romantic sector, and Neptune going through the 5th house can be incredibly romantic. It can be a time of beautiful dates and beautiful love affairs and excitement and rose-tinted glasses. Of course, it can sometimes go too far and you can be conned by somebody. It's sort of like, there's the higher and lower vibrations of any planet in any house, but it can be a very romantic and artistic and creative time. If you ask Scorpio risings who are creative, while Neptune was going through Pisces, a lot of them made their best work, their best work of art during this transit. So there can be very beautiful moments when it comes to your love life. You can also find that if you have children at this time, they are very artistic or creative or sensitive. You might notice your children are more artistic or sensitive or creative at this time. I think for a lot of you, it could be that with Neptune going through the sector, you're just simply feeling more rose-tinted about love, about children, about the arts, about creativity with Neptune going through that sector. So if you are starting a romantic love affair at this time, it could feel very grand and very romantic. Or if there's a new beginning with a child in your life, it could be, even with Neptune, maybe kind of confusing, maybe a little bit elusive at times. Sagittarius, Neptune's a hard one to pin down, but I'll try my best in the Neptune and Aries horoscope. This solar eclipse, nevertheless, is about transformations for you, and I think they're transformations of the soul with Mars in the 8th. Your tarot card was Judgment, which is to do with the 8th house. It's to do with Pluto energy. A lot of you could be having some big realizations, some big breakthroughs, or some big blasts from the past at this time, Sagittarius, with that Judgment card. But that is what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Capricorn, welcome to the solar eclipse in Aries horoscope for your sign. Capricorn, this eclipse is happening in your fourth house, and this is your domestic sector. So this is your home, your family members, property matters. It's to do with your roots. And this is an interesting place to have a solar eclipse because it can coincide with a big move, buying a home, selling a home. Big fated changes in the family. There could be people entering your family. Maybe there's a birth in your family. Maybe there are dynamics in your family where someone actually emancipates themselves from the family. I'm just giving examples. It doesn't have to be anything like that, but it can bring about changes in your family life, in your family dynamics. It's an interesting one because with Mercury and Venus having retrograded here, a lot of you could have been really focused on the past. Very nostalgic these retrogrades have been for you, thinking about the past, thinking about your upbringing, thinking about your lineage, your ancestors. And this solar eclipse could trigger a new beginning in that sector for that reason. Maybe some of you are very curious about your ancestors and you're wanting to learn more about your lineage, or there's a new beginning in your family. Maybe some of you are buying a home. I think a lot of you could be buying a home with a partner, or you could be moving in with a partner, renting with a partner, whatever the case may be, because it's ruled by Mars in your seventh house of relationships. So a lot of you could be making changes to your home with your significant other. That could be a renovation, it could be a purchase, rental, whatever the case may be. But you could be making changes with your partnerships in mind. Some of you could also be finding that if you're looking for a relationship, for example, you're feng shuiing your house to get the energy right to invite in a partnership with Mars in your seventh house. Some of you could be buying a house and the Mars in the seventh energy could be the legal matters, signing contracts, negotiations, that type of thing. I wouldn't advise signing anything until mid-April, late April, really, with Mercury retrograde. Until then, you don't want to sign contracts while Mercury's in retrograde unless you can, they're temporary and you can change them later, Capricorn. But I do think a lot of you could be undergoing changes when it comes to home and family, and it could be motivated by a partnership or a relationship. And it's an interesting one too because Neptune is moving into that sector for you, and we've never, none of us in our lifetime have experienced Neptune in Aries unless you're over 160 or a time traveler, of course. But it's very new energy, it's uncharted territory, and it's in your sector of territory, it's in your home sector. So there can be very deep and spiritual transformations happening with your home and family. For some of you, it could be that you're really focused on the energy in the home, the energy of the grounds that you live in. Some of you could be making your home a more spiritual and zen place to be. I essentially see a lot of you very focused on the energy of your home and wanting it to be a place to escape to, wanting it to be a place to heal, wanting it to be a place to feel at peace. And some of you might also be forgiving a family member or family members. Some of you might be finding your fantasy home, whether it's real or a fantasy, I don't know, but it looks like you could be looking for your fantasy home, your dream home with Neptune going through that sector. But I do think for a lot of you, it's very focused on the energy, wanting good energy in your home. And there do seem to be family changes afoot. It could be your partner's family. There's changes going on there as well for you, Capricorn, with Mars being in the seventh house. Your tarot card is the Page of Swords, so there may be important communication. This could be for some of you that you're looking for homes online. It could be that you're getting a message about a home, a message about a family member, a message about a family affair, something going on in the home, property, and your family members, Capricorn, at this time. But for some of you, eclipses, they affect us all differently. One person's move can be another person's redecoration. One person's birth in the family can be another person's family member moving away. It can just be that kind of thing. No eclipse is the same for everybody, but for you, it certainly focuses on home, family, and property. That's what I have for you, Capricorn, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Aquarius, welcome to the solar eclipse in Aries horoscope for your sign. So Aquarius, this eclipse is happening for you in your third house. So the third house is your communication sector. So some of you might have something to announce. Some of you might have something to declare. Some of you might also be receiving important news at this time, important communication. You could have a change in your mindset with this eclipse. Now, bear in mind, this series of eclipses started in April 2023, and this is the finale. You may have experienced significant changes in the life of a sibling, in terms of your neighbors, in terms of your community, in terms of your mindset, and in terms of the way that you communicate or the way that you speak, Aquarius. So essentially, this eclipse could be bringing a reset here. So I think for a lot of you, you could have some significant news coming up at this time. It's ruled by Mars in your 6th house. So some of you might have news pertaining to your work, pertaining to your job, your colleagues, your employees, your health as well could be a big topic of conversation at this time. Or your job could be a topic of conversation at this time. News could be relating to those areas. You may have something important to say, something important to declare, or important information when it comes to those areas. And it's really interesting for you, Aquarius. I really like this for you. Neptune is moving into this sector the next day, and you've never experienced Neptune in this sector in your lifetime. Because it's 160 years before Neptune returns to a sign. So none of us have experienced Neptune in Aries. And Neptune in the sector is beautiful for writing, for poetry, for channeling. If you're a psychic, for example, it's very mystical and magical, and it's very creative. So this can be beautiful for channeling your artistic and creative side into writing, singing, that type of thing. Obviously, this can be a bit confusing at the same time when it comes to thinking straight, when it comes to information, when it comes to getting the facts straight. There can be very spiritual trips that you take. Maybe you're going to a workshop or a festival. Maybe you're going to something of that nature that is spiritual in nature. Going to maybe a breathwork workshop or a tarot reading workshop or something. You may be more interested mentally in spiritual topics, but you could also be traveling for these, as I say, like traveling, taking a trip to a festival that is spiritual in nature, and really focusing on the signs and synchronicities of the universe with Neptune going through the 3rd house. But it sets the tone of this eclipse. So maybe for some of you, you have something important to say, something important to write. The 3rd house can also be to do with contracts, but I would be mindful of signing anything until late April, mid to late April, when Mercury has gone direct, because that can be a tricky energy. But eclipses can last, the effects of them can last 6 months, so you might not notice the new beginning right away. I would say for a lot of you, the focus is on siblings, the focus is on neighbors, community, workshops, learning. But it can also be a new car for some of you as well, a new car for work, maybe a new car for your well-being, to get from A to B, obviously, as most cars are for, but it could be a new car for some of you as well, Aquarius. Your tarot card is the Ace of Wands, which is that new spark. I really feel like for a lot of you, you have something important to say, important to write. You might have a new hobby that you really enjoy, something that really sets you alight. You feel excited about it. You feel passionate about it. Neptune going into your 3rd house is a lovely energy for being creative, and especially when it comes to, mental pursuits, writing, reading. It can be great for finding yourself lost in great books, or writing a great poem, or writing a great song. Hosier is an Aquarius rising, so hopeful that he's going to write something with Neptune in Aries, which of course he will, but it's a lovely poetic energy when Neptune goes through the 3rd house, if you embrace it that way. And I think for a lot of you with the Ace of Wands, it could be something creative that's really sparking your interests. But the 3rd house, it's quite broad. So for a lot of you, this new beginning could be quite different in nature. But it tends to bring about important news or information. Or say, for example, you feel called to take a workshop, especially if it's a spiritual one. You might go along and you might meet somebody that's very important in your path. You might connect deeper in your life with a sibling, with a cousin, with a neighbor. You could have fated neighbors enter your neighborhood that help you grow, or help you with your health, with Mars being in the 6th house, or help you with your work, or connect you to the job you want, or something like that. Eclipses can be very synchronistic, Aquarius. So do pay attention to what's going on for you at this time. That's what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Pisces, welcome to the solar eclipse in Aries horoscope for your sign. Pisces, this eclipse is going to be happening in your second house, which is to do with money, it's to do with your financial affairs, your possessions, security. It's also to do with your values. So there's a new beginning happening here, and there can be a door opening for you financially. Now, this could be a new opportunity to make money. This could be a new way of working with money, handling money, thinking about money. And if you think back to April 2023, when the series of eclipses in Aries and Libra began, this began with an Aries solar eclipse ruled by Mars in Cancer, much like this one. So think back to what was going on for you around that time surrounding money. Did your financial situation change? Did your values change? Did your approach to money change? This second house eclipse can absolutely bring a new way of making money, but I think it can be connected to the past in some way. The reason that I say that is because Mercury and Venus have both been retrograde in this sector. This means that you can connect to people from the past that can maybe help you with a new way of making money. You can bring about old ideas, old ways of making money, and having a bit of a reset and moving in a new direction when it comes to your financial affairs, Pisces. It is ruled by Mars in the fifth. So there's a motivating factor here of fun, love, creativity. You might be wanting to make more money, maybe because you're having a baby. You might be wanting to make money in a different way because you're having a child, or you're on maternity, or you want to be a stay-at-home parent. It can also be that you're wanting to embrace your creative side and you find a way of making money through it. It can be as well for some of you that you're taking a bit of a gamble with something financially at this time with Mars in the fifth house as well. But I think for most of you, you could find yourself making money through something creative, or really connecting the dots on your relationship between how you spend and your happiness. Are you noticing that buying certain things isn't really making you happy? Or are you noticing that you're not putting money into things that you enjoy, like hobbies, events, social affairs, and maybe you're rethinking what you spend your money on? And a lot of you might want to spend it more on your kids, or you might want to spend it more on having fun or creative or artistic pursuits or hobbies, or financially propping up a talent of yours, Pisces. You could as much be investing in a talent financially as you could be making money from a talent financially with this energy. And one of the reasons that's so profound is because Neptune is actually entering your second house for the first time in your lifetime. And Neptune is your ruler. It's been in your sign since 2011, so this is a big deal to have it leave your sign. Your ruler being in your sign for a long time, you can feel very much, in tune with your sensitive, spiritual self. Neptune moving into your second house is changing the way that you view money. It'll probably change the way you make money, the way you save money, the way you invest money. I think for a lot of you, you may be making more money through your talents, things that come naturally to you, your sensitivity, your psychic abilities, your spiritual side, your creative side. And you may find that are more. Money can definitely flow to you when your first house ruler is in the second house, but it can also sometimes be a little bit elusive. So this might be a time when you have to really think, okay, I need to stay grounded with this, because get rich quick schemes would come under Neptune in the second house. So be careful of that. Be careful of being silly with money or illusions with money. But it can be a time when you're making money out of your natural talents and your natural gifts. I would advise with this eclipse, based on your tarot card, to save money, to make sure that you're putting money away, because we have the Four of Pentacles, which is about being financially responsible and a little bit more conservative with your money. So I feel like with an eclipse in your second house, this can say, don't blow it all in one place. If there's a new opportunity to make money, fantastic, but make sure that you're always thinking of your security, especially with Neptune going through the second house, thinking of your financial security and having a boundary in place, a non-negotiable, that you have this savings account, or you're putting away a certain amount each month, or you're not touching this certain savings account, or something like that. Something that is this conservative viewpoint of your finances, which will be good for you with Neptune entering that sector as well, Pisces. You might not be as interested in money when Neptune enters your second house, but it's still, it still matters in today's world. So that's something to bear in mind with your tarot card. It's encouraging you to be kind of responsible with your finances. So a new financial opportunity may arrive for you, Pisces, with this solar eclipse. That is what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon.